Good morning, everybody. The beautiful Monday morning. Keith Engle for TGI Sports Talks Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. Lots to talk about today. I welcome in my co-host, Boxing Hall of Fame writer and Michael Spink's biographer, Jack Hirsch.
And Keith, also, I just got to say something.
Yes.
You know, doing sports, you're told things in confidence, and you have to be quiet about it. I've known for a while now who Anthony Joshua's next opponent's going to be. It's going to be announced this morning. I sat on the scoop. You know, so when things are said in confidence, you can't reveal them. Okay? Wow. I've sat on the scoop, but it'll be announced, and we're going to have him on a guest on Glove Fist. Not tonight, but next week, Anthony Joshua's next opponent. And I'm not going to say who it is. It's going to be announced shortly. But We're going to have him on as a guest next week.
Totally out of left field, Jack gives me this news that we're this kind of breaking news that Jack knows the opponent, but
I can't say. I can't say.
So you decide on a Monday morning with cranky viewers, we're going to tick them off by
I'm cranky. I got this scoop. I could have looked good for the whole boxing world, a week ago or whatever. But
unless it's me, I guess it's not that important to me. I guess. I mean, I'd like to know. I want to know, but
we will have him on as a guest on Glove Fist. Joshua's next opponent.
Oh, his next opponent. So it's Frank Laterzo. Nice. It's either Frank or you. I hope not for either one of your sakes. Listen, lots going on. We're going to start with the NBA. We'll get into some Major League Baseball. Alex Cora, surprisingly fired. It looks like he lost a power play in Boston. We'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll kind of wrap up. Well, maybe not wrap up, but put a bow on this week's talk about the NFL draft. But the news so far, or I think the biggest news today is, and I think you do as well, Jack, is the NBA. The Knicks over the weekend win a big game 4, but last night Houston wins an even bigger game 4 because they were down 3-0, and a great performance by Houston, and maybe LeBron's worst playoff performance ever. I can't remember him having a worse performance than he had last night. I don't think Houston's coming back in this series, but who knows? And we had a couple other games yesterday, which not as surprising to me. But what are your thoughts on the Houston victory?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a complete embarrassment if Houston got swept by the Lakers. It's easy to say, well, Durant was out and so on. But, the Lakers are missing Luka and they're missing Reeves. And
no trade-off.
Maybe Houston extends this series. Maybe they extend this series. If they win the next game in LA, then their home game 6 in Houston. So there's always a possibility we could be looking at a 7-game series. But LeBron's not going to let his team lose. They're not going to lose 4 straight with LeBron there. It's just not going to happen.
Well, even if they win, I guess tomorrow night, I think they play in Houston, they'd have to go back to LA. They're going to have to win 2 games in LA to be able to win this series. Obviously, the Rockets. Look at it. Here's the thing: is LeBron being asked to do too much? And this is what I was wondering when it would hit. LeBron had been playing less minutes. He wasn't asked to do as much while Reeves and Luka were healthy. And now he's been asked to do more, and he kind of hit a wall last night.
5 in LA. I'm sorry to cut in. They play game 5 in LA.
Oh, do they?
Game 6 in Houston, game 7. It's not 2-3-2. It's 2-2-1-1-1. That's how the NBA works.
I forget about the 1-1-1.
It's a little different from baseball. For example, baseball would be 2-3-2.
Yeah, I was forgetting about
home field, home court.
At the end of the day, they still got to win 2 games in LA. But
at the end of the day, they have to win the next 3 games. It's little consolation. If you lose the series, I mean, even if you're Houston, you can't say, well, we came back, we were down 3-0, we made it 3-3, then we lost. You're not exactly losing to OKC, the defending champions, a strong team. You're playing a team of your caliber. And those are the series that if you don't win, you're really, really disappointed. You can't just say we gave them a good fight.
What do you give Houston any chance? So I don't think they're going to survive Game 5. Then, given it's in LA,
I don't think so. I think the way the Lakers lost Game 4, it's much better for them than had they lost a close game. Did you see that foul by DeAndre Ayton getting kicked out of the game? I mean,
yeah.
I was actually glad he got kicked out, that the officials got it right. I mean, that was a flagrant elbow. I mean, sometimes accidents do happen. I understand if you go for a ball, you're getting a little frustrated, then maybe your elbow comes a little harder, at that moment. I get that. Mutombo was a specialist at doing that back in the day.
He was very good at it.
But what Ayton did, he deliberately, rammed his elbow into,
I don't remember who he hit but we think about it. Yeah, again, the NBA.
It was a hard shot. It was a hard shot. We started off talking boxing, but, heavyweights would have been proud of that elbow shot. Mike Tyson used to do it. He'd miss a punch, follow through the hard elbow. That's what Ayton did yesterday, even though there was no intended punch.
The NBA is a little like college football in this regard, right? You get a flagrant 2, you're out of the game. You get a targeting call in college, you're out of the game. Sometimes I like that call, and there are other times I don't, because sometimes the flagrant 2s are not like an intentional elbow, or whatever, hard foul.
Well, the game gets a little physical, and even the spectators at courtside get involved. And I'm going to tell you something, Keith, and I hate to say this. It bothers me to no end, and I hope I'm as wrong as could be. Eventually, a spectator is going to get seriously hurt by one of these players diving in the crowd. And I cringe when I see a little kid at courtside in the first or second row. It happened yesterday. Donovan Mitchell went diving into the stands to get a loose ball. He did it the way it was supposed to. He was trying to save the ball at a crucial time in the game, a very crucial time in the game. And he knocked over a couple of spectators, one woman, and Donovan Mitchell showed what a good heart he had. He was very concerned, even though it was a big part of the game. He took his focus off the game for a moment because he wanted to be sure everyone was okay.
Sure.
The way he went into the stands. Kudos to Donovan Mitchell, but eventually someone is going to get badly hurt. Yeah. Remember when Shaq used to dive into the stands?
A lot of guys.
Could you imagine, Keith, you bring one of your grandchildren to the game, you're giving those front seats, and Shaq is diving at the air at them? I mean, wow. People would be like bowling pins there, the way he would squash.
Very dangerous, but I don't think your example is realistic, because I'd have to get your tickets to be able to sit at courtside. I can't afford
it. Listen. There are risks as a spectator, but certain risks could be avoided. Major League Baseball has netting, but the NBA, you see these big bodies flying into the stands like with Donovan Mitchell yesterday. It's scary.
Not a lot they can do. I mean, they can move the seats back, but I would think for the money they charge for those seats, now you're going to make them obstructed for the far end of the court. But maybe that's the only thing you can do is push them back 5 feet or something, and it would protect them a little bit. You can't put netting or glass up like the NHL. You can't do that, obviously.
Well, maybe, I hate to say, we're going to get off this because it's kind of a little generic, and I know I brought it up.
That's okay.
Maybe just a rule change that once a player, leans over a certain way, his foot doesn't necessarily have to be out of bounds. I don't know, but something will be done after someone gets hurt. And I just want to get ahead of the curve before it happens.
There's other factors too than just the fans getting hurt. I mean, sometimes they get involved in the action too. We've seen that happen as well, where they get in players' faces. I think the fans are way too close in a lot of the NBA.
Remember back in the day, I mean, a Magic birthday, so when the fans would storm the court, that is the scariest thing.
Yeah.
If you're the Lakers playing the Celtics back in the day, Celtics win the championship in Boston and they storm the court and you're trying to get out of there. You know how ridiculously unsafe that is?
Very unsafe. And you see that in college a lot more than you see it in the pros, but you see a lot of court
But I think in college, they're not going after the opposing team.
Well, they've
I think
actually
it's a little
rules it.
different. It's more of a celebration of their own team.
They find some of these schools now when their fans storm the court in college, or the field in college. So anyway, the Rockets stave off elimination. They'll fight another day. The other games last night. Where were we? So the Celtics, Embiid comes back to no avail. I mean, he didn't play badly, but
no, Embiid played well individually.
He did play well.
This is the argument we sometimes make, Keith. A star player comes back. Is he really helping the team? They lose their chemistry some way, somehow, but what choice do you have? You're not going to tell Joel Embiid, no, we played well last game. The chemistry's good. You sit. You're going to be a backup. I mean, the Lakers are going to face that with Luka when he comes back. Is he going to help? Is he actually going to hurt a little?
Little different, and that's a little different too. The Malice in the Palace was a little different, Rick. On the other side of this, though, Jason Tatum talking about integrating back into the fold. Jason Tatum has done it very, very well, and he played great last night, just short of a triple-double, 30 and 11 and 7.
Exactly. You know what the talk was? Jaylen Brown was having such a great season and carrying the Celtics and being their leader without Jason Tatum. People wondered, well, when Jason Tatum comes back, how's it going to affect Jaylen Brown? Listen, people, they wanted the NBA championship already together. They have chemistry. And as good as, Jaylen Brown was, and I thought he was the MVP. That was my own personal thing, what he meant for the Celtics.
Yeah.
The Celtics were not going to win an NBA championship without Jason Tatum returning. It just was not going to happen. And now they're in a position to seriously contend for it.
The question's was legitimate, though, because you don't know how these guys are going to react once they've gone from being second fiddle, if you will, to the top dog for an extended period of time, and now they're asked to step back maybe a little bit. And Brown handled it very well, but you don't know that until it happens. So the questions are legitimate.
And we don't know their relationship between the two of them, what's what.
No.
I mean, we were even talking about LeBron a couple of days ago on the past show, that what's his reaction going to be when Luka Reeves returns? Right now, it's his team. LeBron is back with the Cleveland Cavaliers right at this moment, and I mean figuratively, because he's leading a pack of players who are really inferior to him, far inferior to them, and he's carrying the bunch, and he likes carrying the bunch, being that type of leader. But when Luka comes back, he can't really lead the team with Luka Reeves the way he's doing it now. So what's going to be? JJ Redick is handling it smartly. Even Bronny got 15 minutes yesterday. It was a blowout. But the point is he's getting LeBron's son some minutes, and that's only going to motivate LeBron, more.
Celtic bench got a lot of minutes last night. They've been able to kind of preserve their starters a little bit. Pritchard gets 32 off the bench last night. So great performance by him.
You've learned a lot. You've learned a lot in the last couple of years. You've come around in this sense. Normally, what you would have been saying in the past, Keith, the Celtics regained home court advantage.
I don't think I would have.
You don't use that line anymore. You've learned, Keith. You have learned.
Not in a series like this, I'm not going to say it. But you think home court advantage doesn't matter, and it does.
It matters, but the games matter more.
Well, of course they matter.
Keith, you spot me 2 games in the best 4-7 series, and I'll tell the other team, you could have the next 5 games on your home court, and I'll take my chances.
I don't think I've ever exactly said it the way you laid it out. I don't think I've specifically said regained home court advantage, but I do talk about home court advantage often. I agree. So I don't know if I've learned anything or it just doesn't matter to me in these series.
Well, let's look at the NBA. Look at you're about to bring up the Portland San Antonio series.
Well, I'm going to talk about the Knicks, which is going to be a huge.
Oh, okay.
We'll finish here, but I would.
Sure. I want to make a point home court, but that's a good example as well.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the perfect example of where I would use that terminology.
Yeah, I agree with that.
A series that is still close. Well, let's talk about the Spurs first. The Spurs, Wemby comes back, and he's not happy with the NBA either with their concussion protocol. He ripped the league pretty good about what you got to go through to get back into games.
The league's doing it for its own good. Wemby yesterday got knocked down in the second half.
Yeah.
And people held their breath for a second. He didn't hit his head. And while he's lying on his back, he's kind of clapping a little, you know?
He didn't hit his head.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I guess just about that concussion protocol, there's times I don't like it, but I understand the reason they have it is because of guys like Wemby who think it's ridiculous because they got to protect them from themselves, right? Especially
the concussion protocol. I wonder how accurate it is, how to be used, because if some of them stuff is a legitimate concussion, they shouldn't be allowed to be back a few days later. I don't think under normal circumstances. You see it in football. Well, I mean, they might be held out a week or two at most, but listen, the league, how much can the league do? This is sports. You can't shut a guy down for 2 months all of a sudden to be extra careful.
People have to be responsible for their own well-being at some point. If I want to play, maybe you should let me play. I mean, there's an argument to be made for that as well, I think. But
no, you have to look out for the athlete. Otherwise, they'll go in with the concussion. Will be unsafe.
But they're very inconsistent too. And I'm not sure about the NBA, so I'm off topic a little bit. But you mentioned the NFL. There was a game last year, a nationally televised game. I want to say it was Josh Allen. I could be wrong. Got his bell rung. Goes into the tent. I would have thought, I mean, some of these hits, they got to have some kind of concussion, some kind of damage, but he's right back out on the field. He spends 10 minutes in the tent and they put him back out. I have no idea how they can know whether he's got a concussion with that type of examination. So it's a little inconsistent, I think, in how they employ it maybe in the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway. Spurs win easy. They should wrap up this series, I would think, in a couple of nights when they play.
Yeah. I mean, the Knicks are a great example of home court advantage in this series going forward. 2 of the next 3 in New York, Portland, San Antonio. Kudos to Portland. They created a little interest in the beginning. They beat San Antonio the first game, which was a shocker to me. But then San Antonio's so superior. They've won the net last 3. The last 2 in Portland. So if one team's so much better than the other, home court isn't going to help someone. But the Knicks and Hawks,
an argument for
they
me.
both won on one another's home court. 2 of the next 3 in New York. This is where home court's pivotal. And you better believe the Knicks and Hawks have a little bit of a different mindset going into Game 5. The Knicks know there's an urgency. We better win Game 5. If we win Game 5, they're thinking, even if we lose Game 6, we got Game 7 at Madison Square Garden. So they're going to be feeling that they'll be in a really good spot. So it's a must game for the Knicks Game 5. The Hawks are thinking in terms, well, if we win Game 5, then Game 6, we could actually wrap it up. We put everything we have into Game 6.
So you've just backed up my whole argument about home court advantage, by the way. You have
it means something. It means something.
Yeah.
But wins mean more.
You have to win home court advantage to have the advantage you just talked about, though. If they don't win tomorrow night.
2 of the next 3, 2 in New York. Believe me, Game 5 isn't such a big home court advantage.
I disagree. Game 5's pivotal in this series.
Game 6 is going to be major, the home court advantage, for the simple reason, if the Hawks are down 3-2, it's going to be comforting to know they have Game 6 in their own building. If the Knicks go down 3-2, they're in a desperate situation because Game 6 is in Atlanta. They're going to have to win on the road to keep their season alive.
Agreed, and that's
why Game 5 is nearly a must-win for the situation for the Knicks.
Right, and that's why Game 5 is so pivotal in a 2-2 series. In these
it always is, but it always is. It always is.
And maintaining home court advantage is what's pivotal about it, because otherwise you got to go on the road and win. That's why it's pivotal.
Look, same situation. Yeah, I mean, I remember when Jason Kidd, was with the Nets after they went to the finals a couple of years. They're playing the Detroit Pistons.
Good question.
It's 2 games apiece, and they got Game 5 in Detroit. and the Nets win Game 5 in Detroit. They're up 3-2 against the Pistons. That's the year the Pistons won the NBA title with Ben Wallace. And they have a chance to wrap it up at home. The Nets up 3-2, and they lose to Detroit at home. And that sets up a Game 7 in Detroit, and the Nets got blown out.
Well, we agree that the Knicks is pivotal. They win Game 5 here, right?
It is. I think it means more to the Knicks than it does to the Hawks Game 5.
100%.
That's the point I'm trying to make. It means more to them, in large part because they are at home. They're under more pressure. And they've got to get it done.
And that's fair. And before I go on to the other game tomorrow night, we skipped one from last night. The Raptors tied a series with the team you like a lot, the Cavaliers. This year, I think this goes 7 games. The Raptors are showing a lot of fight in this series, and Scotty Barnes playing very well last night.
Scotty Barnes, excellent. Scotty Barnes is my guy who you wonder would Toronto trade him for the right player. I mean, he would have a lot of appeal in some type of trade package, a team looking to make a major deal. Maybe we're thinking in terms of Giannis going to Toronto, where they would be willing, the Raptors, to part with Scotty Barnes in some type of deal. But Scotty Barnes made his foul shots at the end of the game. You know, that's an overlooked thing. So many times one team opens up the door for the other team by just missing some late foul shots. But, Scotty Barnes made his, and he stepped up at the end of the game. He really did. His final line didn't look that great, like 23 points, but he really stepped up at the end.
Game 2 or Game 3?
Ingram did as well. Ingram did as well for Toronto.
Yeah, speaking of foul shots, Game 2 or 3 with the Knicks-Atlanta series, Atlanta kept the Knicks in that game at the end because they missed 2 foul shots, 2 crucial foul shots before. So anyway,
I like this comment.
I left it up.
In Toronto, it is still a frequently recurring topic whether Scotty Bankerina should put up a Kawhi Leonard statue. Kawhi Leonard played 1 year for the Raptors.
And won.
They won a championship, and he'll have a gold card for life in the city of Toronto based on 1 year. That's what kind of made me think with Kawhi Leonard.
Do we give a guy a statue, though, for 1 year and 1 championship when most guys will get...
But Kawhi Leonard was kind of honest. Everyone knew, maybe he didn't say it directly, but he certainly gave every indication he would spend 1 year in Toronto, and then he wanted to go to Los Angeles where he lived. That's where he wanted to play. You can't knock him for wanting to play in his hometown. He would rather live in Los Angeles year-round than spend half the year in Toronto. It's a lifestyle. Yeah. But had Kawhi Leonard stayed at Toronto, he would have been a national treasure all these years. He would have been playing for the Raptors now. They wouldn't have had to win another championship. He would have been so loved. Yeah. If I'm Kawhi Leonard and I could somehow find my way back to Toronto, it would warm my heart so much that they're even thinking of building a statue for me. I want to go back there. I want to go back and play for Toronto some way, somehow. I tell the Clippers, if you're willing to trade me, I'm willing to go one place, Toronto. I'm willing to go back there. They would go bonkers, the city of Toronto, if he came back.
I would normally say somebody need a larger body of work to get a statue, but
normally that's what makes it crazy.
Right. But let me finish. They were close to winning a championship before he got there, and they may not be close ever again if it's possible. So
I've never heard of another case like that. A player who was there for such a short amount of time. Compare that to LeBron. He went to Miami for 4 years. They went to the finals all 4 years, won 2 NBA championships. They boo him savagely when he goes back to Miami. Why? Because he also wanted to go home, and he went to Cleveland.
That's different. Well, look, everybody looks at LeBron differently anyway. So. But he's moved several times. Well, so's Kawhi. But again,
LeBron's Cleveland now. When LeBron goes back to Cleveland now, after having a second go-round with them and delivering them a championship, they greet him warmly.
They should.
LeBron is greeted warmly the second time around. No one holds it against him that he left. They did it the first time. And
I think he's going to finish his career there myself.
That would be great. I know we had a debate, and I thought the the more I think of it, next season, if Cleveland gets eliminated, let them run it back with Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, and have LeBron join them. And they wouldn't have to trade any pieces to get LeBron and have, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Strauss, etc. Man, they could get it done again in Cleveland.
Before I get too away from the concussion, Rick did have a serious question about.
I was concussed. Yeah. I mean, I had one amateur fight where I got knocked down in the third round, ducked into an uppercut, and I didn't know I was concussed at the time. You just have a massive headache all the next day. So you get concussed. Yeah.
Yeah, and Chris, I wouldn't compare CC.
It happened when I'm young. I'm hoping I'm showing no effects of it. My memory seems pretty good.
Well, I guess so. I was guessing
that maintains. Yeah.
I was guessing yes, with lingering effects. Anyway, the other games tonight, tonight. The Knicks play tomorrow. Tonight, there's at least one important game. The Pistons surprisingly find themselves down 2-1 to the Magic. Maybe not surprisingly. We talked a little yesterday. This team disappointed a bit in the regular season, but they had key injuries, and people are coming back healthy now. And you're seeing the difference in this series. And Banchero is showing why it came up yesterday that he was a number one pick in the draft. And I always forget that because it felt like he disappeared for a while after that because you don't see the Magic a lot in the game of the weeks. Yeah. And Banchero's played really great in this series and has had a pretty good career. But he's a guy
with certain players we forget about, like Desmond Bain, who show up. Yeah, Suggs. Listen, Toronto was disappointing this season. And Detroit had, a great year. They exceeded all expectations. But it just wasn't the same Detroit team to me, when Cunningham started having the collapsed lung. You kind of lose something. And look, Detroit might very well still win this series. They're down 2-1. It's certainly a winnable series. And yes, home court will be exceedingly important if it goes 7 games. And game 7 would be there in Detroit. In situations like that, I agree. Home court is invaluable if it goes 7 games. But, we'll see. It's a dogfight, and Orlando has shown up. They're starting to show up in the playoffs.
And they got
tonight coming up out. They're fulfilling their potential, right now in the playoffs.
And the Pistons are really up against the wall. They need to win in Orlando tonight. This is an important game, obviously. You can't fall down 3-1. And expect to come back and win the series, I don't think.
Right, teams come back from 3-1, but we've seen it happen a good number of times. I wouldn't discount the team falling down 3-1, but it's a case where one win at a time, and let's see what happens. If Detroit loses this game and they fall down 3-1, well, game 5 is in Detroit, so they would be favored to win that. And this is where your mindset comes in with home court. If you're down 3-1, but 2 of the next 3 games would be on your home court, you start thinking to yourself, we just have to win 1 road game. Then the burden falls on the other team. Then they've got to beat us on our home court. You look for every psychological edge.
Well, once you're down 3-1, but you can't argue with me. Well, you can, and teams have often come back from 3-1 down. I'm not saying they can't, and the Pistons are good enough to do it. But you can't argue with the fact that it's easier to come back from 2-2 than 3-1. So I think tonight's a really important game for them. And,
very obviously.
And also surprisingly for me, the Nuggets, and it's a little bit different situation here. They're down 3-1, but they might be still the favorites to win the series because the Timberwolves' injuries are not looking good. We know DiVincenzo is out for the season, obviously with an Achilles injury. But now it looks like Edwards will be out for at least a few weeks.
This is a crazy series. Like you're just saying, Keith. The Timberwolves up 3-1, yet the Timberwolves seem to be chasing the Nuggets at this point. The Timberwolves are looking at it. We have 3 games. Can we eke out 1 win out of the 3?
Yeah.
And Denver's, if this was 2-2, I'd say there's no way the Timberwolves could win this. But any team could beat any team in the NBA on a given game. The ball just doesn't bounce the right way. But with Anthony Edwards out a few weeks and other DiVincenzo out for the year, I mean, those are Anthony Edwards is obviously a massive piece, and DiVincenzo's a nice piece for the Timberwolves. Who's going to have to step up? We need Julius Randle to come up with a Magic Johnson type performance like he did 1980 in the playoffs when Kareem was out. Someone is going to have to step up, a couple of guys. McDaniels, Randall, whatever. And they're going to have to play great, not good, great, to win one of these games. And Minnesota can do it.
And Gobert. And Rudy Gobert, who I'm not a big fan of. He's got to keep Jokic in check like he has the last two games.
I mean, I still think Minnesota's going to win the series. But, obviously, if Edwards was in, DiVincenzo was in, I'd say absolutely Minnesota's winning this series, and it's not going to go 7 games.
And now, even though I picked the Nuggets,
because I'm going to tell you, if Denver can get it to a game 7 at home, but I think Minnesota's winning this, and Minnesota can win at Denver. They already showed that. And three chances to win one game. I do think they do step up, Minnesota. And they win one of these games, but which one, I'm not sure.
I would have agreed with you, by the way, without the injuries. Even though I picked the Nuggets to go to the finals, I would have thought they were done without the injuries after the last 2 games, the way they performed. Just looking ahead real quick to tomorrow night. We also have the Oklahoma City. They're going to wrap it up tonight, I would think, against the Suns.
Yeah. I mean, Phoenix is – the ironic part about it is Phoenix doesn't have a bad team. Devin Booker, the trade, they made Phoenix with Houston, dealing Durant, and Dillon Brooks has been a key part of that deal. Dillon Brooks, even though he might act like a knucklehead, and he does it by design, he wants to come across as the villain, harass other players. So maybe he's doing a brilliant job of it. He doesn't mind being the villain, and he certainly has helped Phoenix a heck of a lot this year. He really has. Kudos to Dillon Brooks in that respect. But what are they thinking? They've had a decent season, and they compare and look at where they were a year ago, Phoenix. They were the league's NBA's biggest disappointment, how poorly they performed, coming nowhere near the play-in. Yeah. Now, they're in the playoffs and 3-0 to OKC, and they've never threatened them in these games. And Devin Booker's complaining about the officials all the time, and it's kind of ugly what's going on in Phoenix. But can they avoid a sweep and beat OKC one game? At this point, that's the big question. They're not winning 4 in a row, and I think they kind of know that.
I think that series is over tonight, and tomorrow night I would say the Celtics and the Spurs will both wrap up those series at home.
And like I was saying, was it yesterday? Maybe it was. If you're Phoenix, you win game 4, and you're down 3-1. You got to travel back to OKC.
You did say yes.
And your mindset might be, I don't want to go back to OKC. We're not beating them. And OKC, it's not as urgent. They got to go back to OKC anyway. So they figure, okay, if we don't beat them this game, we'll beat them at home. We got this series locked up.
Yeah, the analogy I heard years ago about this type of game was they've already probably got their golf clubs ready to play golf tomorrow. So I think they're not.
It always stuck in my mind, the old-time teams, when the Washington Bullets got swept in the NBA Finals by the Milwaukee Bucks. I think that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Elson, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yep.
One of the they were called the Baltimore Bullets at the time. One of the Bullet players said, and I forgot who it was game 3 that they lost to go down 3-0. He said, we gave it everything we had. We couldn't have played any harder than we did. One more game and I get to go home. And what about Kevin McReynolds, the Met outfielder? I mean, going into the World Series, I mean, he's saying like either we win this game 7 to see who goes to the World Series.
Dodgers
He says,
series,
I
right?
can't lose. Yeah, he's the Dodgers. He says, I can't lose. If we win this game, we go to the World Series. If we lose, I get to go home to Arkansas. To him, I mean, come on.
I think you could
Is that
lose
the type
there.
of play you want?
Well, since you brought up baseball, let's transition to baseball a little bit. The big news over the weekend was the firing of Alex Cora, who was only won a World Series for his first season. It was 8 years ago. He has had 500 or worse records 3 of the last 5 seasons. I believe he was suspended a season in the middle of there, if I'm not mistaken, for the whole Houston debacle. But still, Alex Cora is considered one of the best managers in Major League Baseball, and he may be back this season, by the way, which I'll touch on in a second. To me, this looks like it was a power struggle between him and Craig Breslow, the new GM there, who brought in a bunch of iffy players. He's a guy who ought to be in trouble because he's put together a shaky roster. But Alex Cora takes the brunt here after just 27 games, and 4 coaches go with him, including Veritek, who was reassigned, which surprised me too.
They would have fired Veritek, but because he's a Red Sox legend, to fire Veritek would have looked really cold. So you keep him on the payroll or whatever.
Well, if you're going to name an interim manager, so first of all, we'll get into the whole Cora thing in a second, but if you're going to fire the manager, this is why I think Breslow doesn't care about the history of the Red Sox, doesn't care about the how important Veritek was to this organization, because you're naming an interim manager. To name Chad Tracy, who is managing your AAA club, but really had no ties to the Red Sox other than that. Why not name Jason Veritek the interim manager if you care about the history?
No, but it's not his job to care about the history of the Red Sox.
You're only naming
it's about
an interim manager.
creating a new history now, winning now. You can't get caught up on this past history stuff to a degree. I would never hire Veritek because I'm concerned about the past history. I mean, he didn't fire Veritek. Veritek got reassigned because they're sensitive to the history. To fire Veritek would have been a terrible public relations blunder.
That's not the same as being deferring to the history of the club and what this guy means to the club. He did it only because it would look really bad. It already looks bad. I'm not saying he should have got the job necessarily.
It does. I'm going to try to defend Breslow.
This guy wants to reestablish this whole team and his whole image, his own image, and forget about the history of the Red Sox altogether. That's my
opinion. The owner, John Henry. John Henry is the boss. Cora would not have been fired unless John Henry signed off on it. John Henry is the owner. Should have said to Breslow, no, Cora's my guy. You're not firing him. You know, and the owner should let a GM know that it's their decision. I mean, listen, Brian Cashman would have moved on from Joe Torre earlier than he did if the front office didn't sign off on it. I mean, if the owner, Hal Steinbrenner, didn't sign off on it. You know, I mean, the owner makes a decision. The only time an owner might back off, if the owner values the GM so much and they're scared to lose the GM, then they back off the owner. We see it happen in all sports. We saw it happen with your Patriots. Robert Kraft did not allow Bill Belichick to move on from Tom Brady the first time around, but it got to the point where he saw he could lose Belichick the second time around, and finally he had to defer to Belichick. But
Brady wanted out. That's a totally different.
Correct in that. But the reason Brady wanted out was because he wasn't getting cooperation from Belichick on how to run the offense, this and that. And okay, forget that example a moment. Back to Breslow. He's absolutely entitled to hire his own guy. Alex Cora wasn't his hire. Anyone who starts a new company, you've been a supervisor, Keith. You start a new company. If there's someone you've worked with in the past in some other company who you're extremely close with, who you know is extremely dependable, and you might want them as your supervisor. And if you come in and the new guy is having some difficulty at that time, you're entitled to bring in your own people. Listen, it happened. Even the guy with the cleanest image, Derek Jeter, when he became a Marlin executive, he moved on from guys. Jeff Conine, considered Mr. Marlin, was demoted, and Conine said, I'm quitting if I have no part in baseball decisions. Jeter was entitled to bring in his own people. It happens all the time.
I don't disagree. We'll agree.
I wouldn't have fired Alex Cora. Alex Cora is one of the best managers in Major League Baseball, point blank.
Alex Cora will manage again this year. I'm telling you, and Danny kind of steals my thunder a little bit here because there's a lot of chatter that my boy.
I don't like managers being fired this part of the season. It rarely helps.
It rarely helps. It did help for who am I thinking of? Just happened recently. They got somebody it was in Philadelphia. Rob Thompson got him to the playoffs and to the World Series.
Rob Thompson is in trouble supposedly on the hot seat,
and that's where Cora may end up.
A terrible start to Phillies, but so let me get this straight.
Cora may be there.
Hiring Rob Thompson because he got off to a terrible start and replacing him with a manager who got off to a virtually equally terrible start. It makes no sense on the surface.
It shows you how
with Rob Thompson and wait.
I would not fire Rob Thompson. I love Rob Thompson. I wish he was managing the Yankees. I've said that for about 8 years now. So I wouldn't fire him.
Maybe he would have gotten them to the World Series.
Before Alex Cora got fired in Boston, there had been chatter this last week that Philadelphia might even try to consider trading for Alex Cora to be their manager now. They may very well fire Rob Thompson, and Cora may end up in Philadelphia. Whether it happens or not, again, you're absolutely right. Changing managers in the middle of the season rarely works. The only time I can think of it ever working where a team won was Jack McKeon in Florida with the Marlins. He came in August, I think. July.
No, it happened in 1983 when the Phillies. We're talking about the Phillies. They went to the World Series.
They didn't win.
They fired their manager. Oh boy, his name.
They replaced him
with Paul Owens.
Paul Owens was a GM, and he went downstairs and managed.
Yeah, and they got to the World Series. It does happen once in a while. Listen, the Miami Heat.
Bob Lemon is another guy that it happened.
Right, the Miami Heat. They moved on from Stan Van Gundy. The Cavaliers moved on.
It happens in other sports and baseball more often. In the history of baseball, I'm pretty sure the only two guys in the history of baseball, which is a long, long time, older than you've been alive, Jack, 150 years. I think Jack McKeon in 2003 and Bob Lemon in 1978 are the only managers to come in midseason and win a World Series.
Well, with Joe Girardi, the Phillies they replaced Joe Girardi, went to the series.
They went to the series. I'm said win the World Series.
No, I mean, listen, you go to the series, it's a big thing. I'm not always against moving on from a manager during the season. If the manager has lost control of the team, really lost control of the team, and they're just struggling badly, and the manager's out of sorts. He just doesn't seem to have it together. You do make a move once in a while. I get it, but that wasn't the case with Alex Cora.
We didn't lose.
Cora and his coaches were stable as could be. All they did was get off to a slow start. And again, why is John Henry allowing Breslow to make that decision? Who the heck is Breslow? Is Breslow going to quit and get another GM job elsewhere? I doubt it.
You defended him and said it was his right to do it. Now you're arguing the other side.
No. What I'm saying, Breslow shouldn't have had any loyalty towards Cora. It's not his job to have loyalty towards him. Cora was not his guy.
I get it.
You on the job.
Fire him.
He's not obligated to stick with other people's guys. He's not obligated to honor the past. Oh, Alex Cora did this or that, so I have to stay. I have to be with him, even if I want to bring in my own guy. He wants to bring in his own people. That's normally the case. I mean, it happens. Listen, it happens in all levels. And sometimes you don't even understand why it happens. Listen, Keith, I won't name the school. I coached JV baseball for 3 years in a row, and we won. We were successful. The JV baseball players moved up to the varsity. The varsity coach stepped down. He recommended me for the job. I worked really well with him, and I didn't get the job because I didn't work in that school. I just coached baseball at that school. And I let them know beforehand, if you hire someone in your phys ed department in the school, I'll stay on as JV coach. If it's a direct hire from your school. But if you hire someone outside the school, I'm not staying on as JV coach. They hired someone outside the school and asked me to stay on as JV coach, but I quit at that point. But I get the feeling the hire was someone who liked whatever the principal, their person.
Is this your way you want the Red Sox job, Jack? You want to manage the Red Sox? Is that what you want?
Well, they couldn't do much worse if I ran things, could they? I would sabotage them being a Yankee fan. I mean, they know that.
Listen, Alex Cora, the players again, they should have played better if they wanted to still have his job, I guess. But
that's a way of putting it. That's always a great way of putting it. A great way of putting it. You hear the players complain, "Oh, we feel terrible. This." Well, why didn't you win? But it's 27 games into the season.
I agree.
27 games into the season, and this is a potential Hall of Fame manager. Okay,
guys get fired early.
A World Series winning manager, and a manager who, after he was suspended from baseball, they still came back too. That's how much they loved him. But I think John Henry sees the Red Sox off to a bad start, so they make a move. And you want to know something, Keith? The Red Sox are going to start playing better. They would have done it on the core as well, but they are going to start playing. They're going to start playing well, I think, because I think they have talent on that team.
I think it's just poorly constructed at this point, but I don't know. What do I know? And guys do get fired early. Yogi got fired after 13 games. Cal Ripken got fired.
16,
Cal Ripken Jr.
6 and 10, but Steinbrenner fired everybody, on a whim. Dick Hauser got fired after winning 103
16 games. Yeah.
Joe Girardi got fired coming one game from getting to the World Series.
Cal Ripken Sr. got fired after 6 games 1 year in Baltimore. When that team lost the first 21, he lost the first 6. So that happens. There are some other guys in trouble, though, as Danny pointed out. Mendoza, I don't know if he's going to survive what's happening in New York. We
don't know. We don't know the trouble they're in, Danny, for the simple reason it's all about perception. We don't know the owner's relationship with the players. I mean, with the managers. If they have a good relationship, some owners are very patient. We think of these owners as spoiled, rich billionaires who have to get their way, who are very impulsive. That's the image of the owners. But some owners are nice, understanding people. I mean, I'll give you a case if we want to look at all the sports. Billy Donovan just quit as the Chicago Bulls coach. But Jerry Reisendorf is a very patient, understanding guy. He wanted Billy Donovan to continue. Another owner would have asked Billy Donovan a while ago.
Well, he wants Tom Thibodeau. That's why he's not unhappy that Billy's gone. Talk is he's already talked to Thibodeau about coming back before
coming back at the second go around at Chicago.
Yeah,
that would be cool. That would be cool.
I think we agree that firing managers in Major League Baseball rarely works, but they always get fired. Joe Espada in Houston's in a little bit of trouble as well. I'm not sure if there's anybody else you would pick out, but those are.
I don't get this. I don't get it at all. Listen, and you talk about Mendoza with the Mets. The Mets put together a good roster this year. They made some moves. The moves may have seemed a little questionable, but they made some good moves. There's a lot of on that team. They've just, they've underperformed. Lindor's been miserable. He's hurt right now. Soto was on the, injured reserve list there. And certain guys, haven't performed, Polanco, etc.
It's the way they've underperformed though as well. It's not just the physical failures, it's the mental failures and the lack of focus it seems this team has sometimes. And that's got to fall on the manager. It falls on the players at the end of the day, but they don't get fired. The manager is going to take the fall when you play as bad. You can play bad baseball, but when you play bad, boring baseball, you're in a lot of trouble, and that's what the Mets have been. And they better put a streak together here, or he's going to be probably gone before.
Yeah, last couple of games against the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah,
one word to describe the Mets, and that word is dull. They were as dull as could be.
That's why you can't. I said you can't lose and be boring, and they are. And he's going to be.
But I don't want it. But this is an owner's call. I don't want the GM deciding he's firing the manager. You know what I would have done years ago, Steve Phillips, what he did, he fired the whole coaching staff of the Mets. Steve Phillips. If I were the owner, you know what I would have done? I would have called Steve Phillips into my office and I would have said, this is the situation. You call all 5 up, you get them all to come back as coaches of the Mets, because if you can't get them to come back, you're going to be fired.
Yeah.
You better beg them to come back and apologize for firing them.
I don't think this is that good a roster, by the way, but that's why I think Mendoza is in trouble, and probably rightly so. David Stearns, at the end of the day, might be getting fired when the season's over as well, because the failures have to go upstairs.
David Stearns will not get fired. GM, he's too highly respected a GM coming over from Milwaukee.
He's had one good season.
They'll have a chance to get it right. You know what would have made the Mets look worse at this point? If Pete Alonso was tearing up the American League, but Pete Alonso's off to a slow start. He's not hitting. But if Alonso was really tearing it up, could you imagine he was hitting a bunch of home runs, hitting 380? That would be noticed here with the Mets. And you couldn't say, well, who says he could have done it in New York? Because he has done it in New York.
If this team loses 100 games, by the way, and Tommy Pham, that's not a big surprise for sure. I mean,
who cares?
This is the problem. This is the problem, though, with the Mets. They've got nobody to bring up. They've got to bring up Tommy Pham from the minor leagues to try to improve this team.
No, the guys just have to play better. But what's his name? Luis Robert. I keep getting from the White Sox.
Luis Robert, yeah.
Robert. He's not panning out. And Polanco is their first baseman's been hurt, but he hasn't panned out. Marcus Semien, who they traded, for he's 35 years old. He can't hit anymore. He gets
Who's responsible for all these guys being on the roster?
Well, David Stearns.
He's going to get fired. This team loses 100 games, he's getting fired.
Kevin Williams is the closer. The jury's still out.
I told you.
Jury's still out. Luke Weaver, middle relief man, getting him from the Yankees.
Weaver's a surprise to me. I told you Williams would be a bust.
It's too early to call him a bust. Williams isn't a bust yet with the Mets. It's too early.
When does that?
And what about their young players like Batty? What?
Almost 20% of the season's been played now. It will be by the weekend. When's it not early anymore? When do we stop giving that excuse?
We expect the guys to start performing very soon. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because it's only too early for when it's genuinely too early.
It's not anymore.
But you have to also look how far a team is from a wild card position. You look in the division, you see all the games they're back, but you got to look at that element with the wild card. And I would worry less about the standings and just about playing better and winning games, and then the standings kind of work itself out.
Yeah, they can't worry about the standings because, again, they're playing bad enough. It doesn't matter. I mean, right now they're on their way to 100 losses. Easy.
No, but that's not happening. The Mets are going to straighten out to a large degree.
We might have to have a little wager. If they play like this for another week, I'll bet you one of your front.
They'll straighten out. They'll eventually straighten out, I have to feel. But listen, you never know. If they don't straighten out, they're going to have to do something major in the off season. And I get the feeling it would be with Lindor. Luke Voigt, wasn't he? I think Luke Voigt is playing for the Long Island Ducks, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, that's Trevor Bauer. He's playing for the Ducks. I don't know for Voigt.
Luke Voigt's playing for someone like that.
He's played in the Mexican League for a couple of years.
Oh, Mexican League. Okay. Luke Voigt.
Chris F. Grave is in love with Luke Voigt. And by the way, he had a comment up here since we're still talking about it. Bauer pitched, 7 shutout innings with the Ducks. He asked me yesterday, is he being blackballed from baseball? And yeah, he is, because of who he is. He's being blackballed. I don't want him. Trevor Bauer, we're talking about.
You want to know something? Unless Bauer was going to be an outstanding starting pitcher, you don't want him. You know, him in the clubhouse as well. The reports that you don't want him around. You know, that kind of makes me laugh in a way. In large part, Bauer is not being picked up by a team because he could be poison in the clubhouse. But he could perform better than better fan number pitchers in the major leagues. But then we hear the nonsense, well, Isaiah Thomas was kept off the dream team. He deserved it. But he would have been bad in the locker room with the other players.
Well, and
it does have a bearing.
He's blackballed because of his personality, and that's it. He's better than 80% of the pitchers in the major leagues, probably. Maybe that's high, but not that much lower, I'll tell you.
I'll tell you, but you could get him cheap now.
You could get him for a song. He'd come back for the league minimum.
And maybe Bauer will behave himself, but he'll learn his lesson.
I don't think, there's always one dumb owner, but I don't think anybody's going to take a chance on him. I really don't. Real quick, we didn't get to the NFL draft, but we talked about it a lot yesterday. I got one question. Well, as we wrap it up, we got a couple of minutes. All the guys who aren't named Fernando Mendoza and got drafted as quarterbacks yesterday, who's got the best chance to play right away? I know my guy, Carson Beck.
Drew Alla, I would think.
Possibly.
Yeah, you're right about Carson Beck. No, I take that back. You're right. The problem with Drew Alla, you can't put him ahead of Mason Rudolph right now.
I don't think he'd start right away.
But if Rodgers comes back, Drew Alla's not playing because Mason Rudolph would be next man up. He would be third string Drew Alla. Carson Beck, because the only thing standing in his way is Jacoby Brissett. In reality, they have Gardner Minshew, right, at Arizona.
They do have Minshew, but Beck. Beck's intriguing. He's very experienced, as you and I talked about before the show. Makes a lot of mistakes, both physical and mental, but he's got all the tools, man. If he ever puts it together and gets coached up right, gets his head right, he could really.
He took Miami to the national championship game, and he's erratic in some of his throws. You're right, but the thing is, his leadership qualities. He's said to be a little bit of a loner.
He is
in the sense that he keeps to himself a little. He gets along with the other players, but you want a quarterback to be a leader, to walk into the locker room and not keep, be reserved. Reserved.
It's not just the interceptions with him, by the way. He fumbles the ball a ton as well. He has a trouble holding on to the ball when he gets hit. So a lot of questions. I think he's got the best shot of those guys.
Who might have the best shot, believe it or not? Kate Klubnik with the Jets, because he's got to be second in line. Look at the Jets' backup. Zappy and Brady Cook. Give me a break.
If Klubnik he could
Klubnik
push.
Could come back as backup quarterback. Geno Smith struggles, gets hurt or whatever, and Geno's not going to last the whole year as the Jets starter. Klubnik is going to get an opportunity, maybe sooner rather than later. And if he looks really good, the Jets' mindset might be different as far as drafting a quarterback next year. So they just took a smart flyer on him.
It might be. I think it's a good pick for the Jets. I was beaten up for it on my show yesterday, but I like him a lot more than a lot of guys do, apparently. So maybe you will. Good show. Good stuff, guys. Thanks for joining us. Jack's got the glove fist tonight. No special guest, but next week.
We don't have a special guest. Aaron Snowell.
Sorry.
Former trainer of a number of heavyweights. He was Mike Tyson's chief second the night Tyson lost to Buster Douglas. He was his chief trainer in the corner that night.
Interesting. That'll be an interesting conversation. And so check that out tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. And next week, you'll find out who Joshua's opponent is because he'll be live with Jack and Frank at 7 p.m. Eastern. So good luck with that. And we'll see you Friday with the Friday edition of Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. And I'll see you Wednesday with the college sports huddle. So have a good weekend or good week, guys. Jack, have a good one. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.